Sure. And and then it's uploading to or it's connecting to my Facebook Live, so that'll take us a minute here, and then I'll roll with starting the introduction. Okay. All right. We are live here on Facebook and happy to be joined again, as always, by the one and only Mick Garry. And we're confirmed that he's not in an airplane. I thought those look like overhead compartments or something, but he's actually still at work. So shout out to the Sanford Employee of the Month, I guess we're going for, huh, Mick?
Hey, I stayed here because the internet is far better than it is in my home. So I don't want to sound like I'm really uh, worthy of winning the type of award you mentioned there.
All right. And obviously, we also have a guest today, and our guest, I'm happy to say, is Eric Peterson, the football coach in football mode coach, head men's basketball coach at the University of South Dakota. Welcome, Coach Peterson.
Thanks for having me. I love football. So I mean, like maybe I just pretend for a day that I'm the football coach and go to practice and roll around. You see me on the field once in a while checking out practice, but I do love football. Um, I just there's just something about it. You get on that field and you're watching those guys work their tails off for like 7 or 8 seconds and they're just exhausted. They come running off and man, it's a fun sport to watch. I'm a huge Packer fan too, so don't hold that against me. But we are 3-1-1, Mick. You know that? We tied the Cowboys.
I understand. I understand. And I respect the Packers. I always have, even though I was pretty much a lifelong Minnesotan. It wasn't until I got out here that it became more of a struggle because I didn't run into any Packer fans in Minnesota. I mean, they laid low. They stayed quiet if they were. And out here, you can chirp a little bit. And so it's been a growth area for me.
I don't stay quiet. I'm looking. You guys can't see it, but there's Lambeau Field framed in a big picture right above my air hockey table, and then there's a Brett Favre autograph on there. So um, I live and die by the Packers. Absolutely.
Well, on that note, I guess we'll end this interview. And Mick said he grew up in Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota until I was a junior in high school as well. So we're both Viking fans, and uh, I guess we can't really talk. Let's not talk about football. How about that? At
Okay,
least
you brought
NFL
it up,
football.
so I was just rolling with it.
All right, Coach. You starting your fourth year. We talked at practice a little bit. Amazing. It's already your fourth year, going into your fourth year here at the University of South Dakota. But let's take a step back for people that don't know Coach Peterson, even after 4 years here at the University of South Dakota. You know, maybe where'd you grow up, and what was growing up like for Eric Peterson?
Yeah, I grew up in West Salem, Wisconsin, which is right outside La Crosse, Wisconsin. Our address was actually La Crosse. I grew up on a farm. We had a couple hundred acres, and you rented a lot of that out. But we had beef cattle. We had we had horses, we had sheep, we had all types of things on our farm, and still grew up doing some of the farm work, doing hay in the summer. All your friends lived out in the country as well. So if you slept over at somebody's house that had a dairy farm, you know what? You were waking up that morning and you were helping milk the cows in some way, shape, or form. And that night you're doing the same thing. So, small town, 3,000 people, where I grew up. And it was right outside of a major city in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So La Crosse is right on the border of Minnesota and Iowa, right on the Mississippi River. Cool place to grow up. And I don't think you truly appreciate it until you leave and then come back for the first time. And I went to Wisconsin lacrosse Division III school, so never really left the area. And my first coaching job was in Williston, North Dakota. And I didn't realize how far that was when I first went out for my interview. And I'll never forget, I called the head coach at the time. His name was Terry Olson. And I told him, it was one of those deals where my mom sent her cell phone with me because we had like one cell phone for our family. And I called him when I stopped in Fargo. And I was like, hey, coach, I'm in Fargo, North Dakota. He's like, great. You still have 6 more hours. And I had already driven 6 hours. And this is when you would like MapQuest it. And so you would just kind of gauge how far you drove on the MapQuest. And I thought I made a major dent in the drive. And I realized I was halfway to Williston, North Dakota. So first time I ever came back was actually for my grandpa's funeral. And I was driving, in Minnesota, you come over the bluff and you're going down the hill. And I would always leave at 7 o'clock at night so I could get in at 7 o'clock in the morning because no traffic, get through the cities, no traffic, and just so I always did. And the sun was coming up, it was like right over top of the Mississippi River, and I was like had that moment where I'm saying to myself, "Wow, what a beautiful place to grow up." And you don't realize it sometimes till you leave and you go to Williston, North Dakota, and it's flat and there's not much out there. But wasn't like truly thankful for it and probably till that moment and realized how great of a place it was to grow up.
Yeah, lacrosse is awesome. And Coach Boots lives right around lacrosse, small
La
town. I
Crescent.
can't remember the small town.
Yeah.
That's what he always says. It's just, it's unbelievably beautiful.
La Crescent, Minnesota. That's actually where I started coaching high school. My very first coaching job in high school was La Crescent High School in Minnesota, and it was right across the border. But they still played in a Wisconsin league, so they were in my conference growing up in high school, and kind of different. You don't see that a whole lot. Eventually, they went to the Minnesota side and played the Minnesota schools. But yeah, just small town. Grew up on a farm. Summers were different for me. A lot of other people were um, hanging out in town, riding bikes, going to the pool, and I didn't get a whole lot of chances to do that. Which honestly, like if you know me and you've been around me, I think a major reason why I am where I am is because I put in a lot of work, and that's one thing my dad taught me growing up is you just got your work ethic has to be number one, and if you work hard, we'll figure it out, and we can get places. And so I mean there's give and take too, right? But I love my childhood. I would do anything to have that childhood farm again and just, ride the four-wheelers up and down. Or we had a nice like trout stream that ran through the middle of it. And I would go trout fishing. And this is a true story. The stream, all we had was like a bamboo pole with a fishing line tied to it. And I would just dangle it over top of the stream. And then you'd feel it and you just pull it like I was little. So I would just pull it as hard as I could and the fish would come snapping back. And that's how I got out of the water. So there's so many cool memories. You played every sport growing up that you could, just because honestly, that got me to town to see my buddies. But it was cool. In Wisconsin, baseball was during the summer. So, you basically did football, basketball. If you played football, you had to run track. That was kind of like mandatory. And then you played baseball during the summer. And we actually had, a couple of really good Major League Baseball players that came from our area. Scott Service, who was with the Cubs. I don't know if you guys remember that name. And then Damian Miller, who was with the Brewers for a while, almost hit for the cycle in the All-Star game when it was in Milwaukee. So cool, small little town right outside of major city. Got everything. Got the hunting, got the fishing. You could get to a major city to do things. Yeah, I had a great childhood and had awesome parents growing up.
Awesome. So you mentioned, moving out to Williston, and so take us through Williston, and then obviously you said, some of that was hard work to get to where you are now. So maybe walk us through where you went from Williston and some of you know, the sights you've seen on the way to
Yeah.
be the head coach at University of South Dakota.
Well, how I got out there, it didn't start out that I wanted to be in coaching. I was actually on the medical side, and I tell this story all the time. As a freshman, I wanted to do something with cancer. My uncle had just passed away from cancer, and I had two grandparents, same thing, and I wanted to do something with that. And my first year, we had to do 200 hours in the hospital, And that's like the true test to see if you can handle it. And I did it, and I would come home every night. And if you know me, I love people. Like I love being around people. I love serving people. And I would come home after those hours, and I would just be beat up, and like I just couldn't do it because you'd build these relationships with people, and this was in the early 2000s, and then they'd pass away or they wouldn't be there anymore. And I'm just like, I need to find another way to be around people and serve people. And I loved basketball, and that was kind of my ticket. So a guy that I kind of I grew up in the Boys and Girls Club in lacrosse. Like I said, my address was lacrosse, but I went to West Salem High School, so lacrosse was much closer than going to my high school. I could just drive into lacrosse, and so I was at the Boys and Girls Club growing up. And a guy named Terry Erickson, who ran the Boys and Girls Club, kind of got me into coaching. And then a guy named Craig Cole, who's the head coach at Onalaska High School right now. He was Evan Anderson's high school coach. Evan's on our team. Between those two guys, they kind of got me to really love coaching. And I told myself, like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it at the highest level. So immediately, I volunteered to coach for the best AAU program in the state of Wisconsin, which was at the time the Fox Valley Skills. And they transitioned to the Wisconsin Playground Warriors. And we had some really good teams. And I think a lot of people forget now it's like the Nike circuit. Everybody wants to be part of the EYBL. The Reebok circuit was the biggest circuit back then. And they had Sonny Vaccaro, who was in like the Jordan movie. He bounced around a little bit, but so we were a Reebok team. We'd go to these tournaments, and I remember coaching against OJ Mayo. Do you guys remember OJ Mayo? We were up like 12 with 2 minutes left, and we lost by 5. And OJ Mayo didn't pass the ball the last 2 minutes of the game. Like he was so good, and that was at the Kingwood Classic in Houston, Texas. But we had some really good players, Mr. Basketballs. We pulled some guys from Minnesota, like we had Cole Aldrich play for us, who played for Kansas. One of my assistants, Coach Ubel, was at Nebraska, and they were in the Big 12. And he remembers going against Cole when he was a freshman. And I was like, "How did that go?" And he goes, "Not very well," because he was 7 feet tall and about as wide as a door, and he was Mr. Basketball of Minnesota, really good player. So I started doing that and just fell in love with it and got to know a lot of college coaches. And that was the next step, is like I really wanted to coach in college. And I don't think people realized how hard it was back then. It's not like you just, hey, I want to coach for Wisconsin. Let's do that. I tried to contact everybody that I could to get on staff, couldn't get on staff. And actually, one of my really good friends, who's the head coach at Wisconsin Lutheran, applied for this job in Williston, North Dakota, and then was offered a job by Stu Engen. If you know Stu Engen's name, Stu was a GA at one point for Boots here at USD. And Stu was at Minnesota State Moorhead. Stu was the coach at Wisconsin lacrosse my freshman year. That's how I knew Stu. His assistant was the head coach at Idaho State last year. And then Stu actually went out and worked for him. But so Aaron was offered this job at Williston, and then Stu, like 2 days later, offers him the GA job at Moorhead. He decides to take the job at Moorhead, and he tells Terry Olson, he's like, "Hey, I'm not going to take the job, but I have somebody better that wants it, and we'll take it right now." And he gave my number. That's when I went out there, Mick, for that interview. And I'll never forget. I was wearing a tie, and he was going to take me to Applebee's. It was the only restaurant in town. And I got in the car, and I didn't know that I had the job, but I had to act like I wanted the job, because I did. I didn't have any other options. And I get in the car, and he looks at me, and he's wearing like shorts and a Beatles t-shirt. True story. He's wearing a Beatles t-shirt, and he looks at me, and I'm all dressed up, and he goes, "Why don't you take that tie off?" And I threw it in the back of his Jeep, and I never saw it again. I never got it. I just threw it back there, and that was the end of the tie. And I knew I was probably getting the job. So I was out in Williston for 4 years, and everybody thinks coaching is really glamorous, and everybody makes a ton of money, and that's not the case. My first 2 years, I made $5,000 a year, and I lived in half of a trailer, not a full trailer, half of a trailer. And most of the time I didn't even stay in there, because I knew there was probably mold, and I would get sick if I stayed in there for too many days. And so I did that for 2 years, had some options to leave. Like Florida Gulf Coast was just starting out, and they offered me a job for $10,000. And I didn't go down to Fort Myers. Tulsa had offered me one of the lower positions on their staff. This is a true story, and you can ask Scott Nagy. Scott Nagy hired me for about a week, and I didn't make it to Brookings. But it was, "Hey, we have, some low-income housing for you, and we have this, this, and this." And it didn't quite line up. how I needed it to. I was engaged at the time, and my wife was already dealing with, or my future wife was already dealing with me living in a half of a trailer. And I figured like the next place I needed to actually provide a decent place for her. So I didn't make it to Brookings, and it's kind of crazy now that I'm at USD. But so I was there for 4 years as an assistant coach. I went to Minnesota State Moorhead. Stu Engen brought me over there to be the assistant. And the previous two guys on his staff that were the assistants got head coaching jobs. And I really wanted to be a head coach. And so I went over there, and Stu got let go after my first year. And I'm like, man, I just left a really good job to come here. I turned down some other jobs. And I trusted Stu. I really liked Stu, and I knew I'd have a lot of responsibility. It's a way that I could learn and grow being there. And so I really didn't know what was going to happen. Um, a guy named Chad Walthall got the job, and Chad knew some mutual friends of mine just from the AAU and coaching world. And Chad hired me back for a year, coached with him, and really got that program going. We recruited some very good players, and I didn't really get to see the fruits of it. But the year after I left in August that year. They made the national tournament for the first time since like 1950 or something like that, some crazy number. And you guys know the success that Chad had at Moorhead, retired, I don't think 4 years ago. And then I went back to Williston as the head coach and athletic director. And I didn't plan on being the athletic director. I went back to coach basketball. Athletic director leaves, I don't know, 2 months into the job. And I was also the head softball coach. A lot of people don't know that. Couldn't find a softball coach, and I was just kind of hanging around. So I recruited a team for a year. And of course, if you recruit those girls, you got to coach them. So I was the head basketball coach, head softball coach, and athletic director, making about $40,000. I don't think I made more than $40,000 a year, which was an awesome experience for me. I was very busy. Bless my wife for putting up with me for that year. Eventually hired somebody else to do the softball piece, coached one more year. Had a lot of success at Williston State. Could have stayed there for a long time, but same deal, Tim. I wanted to keep growing and learning and become a better coach. And I knew Craig Smith, who got the job at South Dakota. Craig was recruiting our best player. He was a first team All American. He actually was the number one point guard in the country. His name was Trey Dickerson. Mick, you probably remember that name. He was on our team here at South Dakota when
Yeah.
we won the league. But
Yeah.
Craig was up a few times, and I actually told Craig not to take him. And, that's kind of different when he's the number one point guard in the country and other Big Ten schools are recruiting him. And Trey knows this story. I can tell this because it's not that I didn't believe in Trey. There's fits in different leagues, fit different players. And if you watch Trey Dickerson play at South Dakota, he was so fast and so athletic, and he didn't really fit the Big Ten. The Big Ten was slower, more physical. TJ Otzelberger was actually at Washington at the time. And I know I've known TJ for a long time, and I was trying to help him because they were in the Pac 12. I thought the Pac 12 and the SEC were the best fits for him. But I told Craig, like, if I were you, I wouldn't take him. And he's kind of looking at me like, what junior college coach tries to get their player not to go to a Big Ten school? And I think honestly, he respected me more for that I just didn't lie to him and tell him everything he wanted to hear. And we developed a relationship kind of through Trey, and he'd been at practice, and I was running practice, and he called me when he got the job and said, yeah, I'm really interested in you. Let's meet at the Final Four. So we did and talked through a bunch of stuff and kind of had some of the same values and beliefs. And it's not just about like, what can you do for me? Your values have to align if you really want to build a staff. So I got on with Craig for 4 years, had 4 awesome years as an assistant coach. Year 3, we won the league for the first time in school history. Year 4, we won 26 games. And for most of the year, we were the number 2 mid-major team in the country behind Gonzaga. And got upset in the championship game. And I just posted a deal when I'm trying to get our fans to get some lower bowl tickets of the crowd for the lower bowl, because it was the ratio wasn't great, blue to red. And now we have a chance to impact that and change that. But Craig got the job at Utah State. I would have loved to stay here, didn't have that opportunity. I always feel like God puts you in the right spots at the right time. And there was a reason why he wanted me to go to Utah State. Very different. You hear a lot of stuff about the religious aspect of Utah and the LDS and the Mormon aspect. But it was an awesome place. Like if you've ever watched a Utah State game, either of you guys, like the atmosphere is
Yeah.
electric. And I will say this, when we got there, it wasn't. They were not very good. There were not many people at the first 3 or 4 games. And we're trying to figure out how to change it. And they're like, just win. If you win, they'll come back. And, by Christmas, it was mostly sold out. And then everyone's like, man, they're legit. And then it was sold out almost every single conference game after that. And the Spectrum Magic was back. So awesome 3 years to learn and grow as a coach. I would say those 3 years, Tim, I learned more about basketball than at any other point in my career. The coaches in the Mountain West at the time, tremendous. Jeff Linder, Nico Medved, you have Leon Rice. You go right, Brian Dutt, you go right down the line, New Mexico, like everybody was top notch. And you're doing these scouting reports. And I'm making more notes about like what I like and what I don't like versus, I got to lock back into the scout. I got to know this guy's a no right guy or no left guy. So we won 2 Mountain West tournaments. We won the Mountain West title one of those years. We lost in the championship my last year there. And obviously, Craig gets the Utah job. And same deal, would love to stay at Utah State. But same thing. God put me in the position to go with Craig to Utah. And crazy story. And don't laugh at me for this. But so we had a house in Logan, sold it, bought a house at the time. It was right after COVID or like kind of going through COVID. When you pulled up Realtor or Zillow in Salt Lake City, there were like 10 houses that we could afford, right? And my wife's in tears and we're like stressed out. We're like, we don't know where we're gonna live. And so I didn't really go on Zillow, but there's like a for sale by owner tab. You got to like flip over and maybe there's not that anymore. But I was like, oh, what's this? And I click on the tab and there's one house that's a for sale by owner. And so I reach out to him and he starts doing some research. He's like, hey, are you an assistant coach with Utah State? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I love the Aggies. I went to, Utah State, but I also went to Utah. Now you're coming to the Utes. He's like, I absolutely want to sell my house to you. And we're like, awesome. We go look at it. It's tight. I got 4 kids, but we don't have any other options at the time. And then what's crazy is the guy that sold us the house in Salt Lake, I coached one of his best friend's kids in AAU in Wisconsin. They were business partners. And so we had like tons of connections. So I got his house. We're in it for like a month. We're just kind of like, man, we have to get something bigger. And every job that I take, we change our home or we do something. We act like we're going to live here forever. I think that's the only way you can live as a college coach. You can't, say, oh, we're going to get this job and move somewhere else. Like you got to be where your feet are at and like plan to live here. So there was a house that came for sale. We flipped the house. We redid the basement. We redid the master bathroom and we sold it. And there was a house a half mile away. And you guys know at the time, the interest rates were like 2.5%. So we bought an amazing house, right? Lived in it for about 7 months. And then the South Dakota job opens up. And I'm just like, man, this would have been our fourth house if we make the move. And the third city in the fourth house in basically just a little bit over a year. And same deal, you pray about it. I never wanted to leave Vermilion. This is my wife is from a small town in Missouri, about 3,000 people too. She grew up on a farm. We're both small town people. And there's a certain way we wanted to raise our family, and we felt like Vermilion was the place. So made the decision to come back. Already been 4 years. We obviously love it here. And Tim, we talk about this all the time, but I love people. I love being in the position to serve our student athletes. And a huge reason why I came back is I want to be part of the first team to make the NCAA tournament here at South Dakota. So that's a little bit about my journey. That's kind of the cliff notes, but it's a long cliff note. But there's so many cool stops along the way that have shaped me to be who I am. And I always feel like God puts you in the right spot for a reason. And I'm definitely blessed to be here and be the head coach at South Dakota.
Absolutely. Mick, I'll go one more and then if you want to jump in. You
Sure.
mentioned your wife a couple of times. 4 kids, a wife, and obviously as a college basketball coach, you um have a lot of obligations. And I need to apologize first because it's a holiday, and in my world and in your world, Coach Peterson, we really don't think in holidays. Mick 9 to 5, or he's probably holiday guy.
Hey,
But I scheduled this and you should be having the day off with your wife and kids. So I apologize for that. But talk about your wife and what maybe her role in, you know, when obviously the season is year round now.
Yeah.
But how impactful is it to have somebody like your wife, somebody that you can rely on to keep everything together during the craziness of a season?
Yeah, extremely. I think I should tell you the story how I met my wife. And a lot of people don't believe this, but so my high school girlfriend went to USC Upstate, and we broke up in college, but still talked and stayed friends. Like, kind of just grew up near each other, and we're like best friends. And so one night we were talking, and she had a college teammate on her volleyball team that was going through some heart issues, and she had passed out on the floor during a game. And I just said, "Hey, like, let her know that I'm praying for her, and anything we can do, just let me know. But like, I'll keep her in my prayers." And she came back, it's like, "Hey, like, you guys would be like perfect for each other." And I'm like, 14 hours away, actually more than that because I moved to Williston. And I'm like, listen, that's not the point of like, I just wanted her to know that, like, I'm praying for her. Like, you don't, she's like, no, like, I know you really well. I know her really well. Like, you have to talk to her. So I agreed to talk to her, and we hit it off right away. I think I went, so my high school girlfriend played volleyball and basketball. So I went during Christmas when we had a break to a basketball game. Lindsay was there. Lindsay's my wife, and we met in person, and like, I knew that was going to be my wife, which is crazy um to say, but so that's how I met her. And former college volleyball player, and I think part of it is just, I don't know, Tim, she knew I was assistant basketball coach at Williston State College, making $5,000 a year, living in half of a trailer, and she had never seen snow before. um, Maybe not like it does in North Dakota, and moved up to Williston, North Dakota. Like, that's that's a leap of faith right there, and that's a lot of trust in God that this is the right person for me. But she's amazing. I mean, you won't find a harder worker. We have 4 kids. I mean, she's such a blessing for our family. And like, you talk about not knowing it's a holiday. Like, I know it's practice or we don't have practice. That's basically like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday thing. I got to constantly check my phone to know what day it is. And she keeps my calendar straight. She tells me where I need to be. Like, there's no way I could do what I do without her, and there's no way I could thank her enough. And she committed to my dream, which is, at the time, it was really crazy being a junior college assistant in Western North Dakota. But I wouldn't be where I'm at without her, and obviously love her to death. And she's done a great job raising our kids.
Absolutely. Mick?
Well, do you have a decent house now in Vermilion? We've heard a lot about the place.
Well, kind of crazy. The first time I moved here, we were very close to living in the Dakota Dunes because we couldn't find a house. And a house came up for sale on hole 8 of the golf course, and didn't really look at it like we're taking it because we don't have any other options. Basement wasn't finished. We took time, kind of did a lot of it myself, where, when you had breaks during the season, you could just do a piece of it. So we finished it, had an awesome home. True story. I put up this basketball hoop in the, like, right in the driveway. I dug this 8-foot hole because it's all clay right there. Took a week doing it in the spring, kind of when we were like in a dead period where we couldn't be out recruiting. I was up at night digging that hole, filled it with concrete, put the hoop up. A day later, Craig Smith takes the Utah State job. I was so excited about this basketball hoop, Mick. So, I mean, we moved, and when we came back, same deal. There weren't any houses for sale that were big enough to fit our family, and very stressful because when you take a job, I don't want to be away from my family ever, but you're going to have to be away from them. And the sooner you can get into a house, the sooner your family can get to Vermilion. And so we're looking at land, and at the time, it's right after COVID too. If we build, hey, it might be done in March. So you're telling me the first season we're gonna live in a 2-bedroom condo, like with 2 dogs and 4 kids? That's not going to work very well. So our realtor actually went door to door knocking, saying, "Would you be willing to sell your house?" And we knew them from the last time we were here, and they own the funeral home in town, and they were building a place just north on a lake, and it wasn't going to be done in time. But bless their heart, they agreed to sell it, and they lived in the funeral home basement for a while so that we could move into their house and raise our family here. So I probably need to give them like season tickets forever for selling us the house. So Bob and Beth, just hit me up. I'll take care of you if you're listening.
Well, it's a good thing that you got that story out here. Seems like yeah, every dwelling you've had is come with a whole like movie level of stuff that came with it there. It's a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, we got to like cut the nets down in Sioux Falls before we can call it a Hallmark quite yet. The whole piece hasn't come together yet, but soon.
Talking about your wife, uh, what are some of the things? I mean, obviously there's a lot on her plate, but what are some of the really good things involved in when you are dealing with a tough week? When you're dealing, either there's a big game coming up and you got your brain has to be on that, or a very difficult loss. What are some of the things where she plays a role and is really able to help the family, help you?
I think she just has a tremendous feel and can read the situation. There's sometimes, Mick, where I come home and like I just need like 10 or 15 minutes to like decompress everything. And I'm not the guy that's going to sit in my car in the driveway and do that. If she can just read me to know, like, okay, I'm going to give him 10 minutes before I come. And then we got to, I mean, you have 4 kids. There's stuff that we have to cover and get on the same page about. And she's been really good about that. I told you guys, like, I love serving people. One of my favorite things is making dinner for my family. And during the season, you just can't do that. And it's nice coming home and she has food on the table. The kids are taken care of. She knows certain nights too, like when I have to watch film and a lot of film, and then maybe the night before the game where I can, help with a few things where she's giving the kids a bath, two nights before the game, and the night before I can spend more time with them. So I think we've been doing this. This is my 20th year coaching college basketball, where I think she just has a tremendous feel. And man, we can laugh together, we can cry together. I don't know. We had some pretty big wins last year. St. Thomas at home, Omaha at home. They were top 2 in the league. And like, there's no better feeling like your kids running up to you, giving you a hug, and your wife giving you a hug. And you're just like, try not to cry because you know how much time and effort she's put into this too. And everybody sees like the stack, but they don't realize the people behind the scenes that really make things happen, that we can do what we love. And that's like the thing that I appreciate most about her, and never wants any of the credit, but she deserves a lot of the credit for us being able to do what we want to do. So I would say it's a combination of the things, Mick, but more so just having the feel of like, reading the room and the temperature of the situation.
How about the ages of your children? What are we talking about here?
Yeah. So my daughter is in 8th grade. Her name is Flynn. She's 13, going on 14. She's all excited because you get to drive at 14 in South Dakota, which is also very scary. I'll never forget the first time I moved here. And I lived in North Dakota. You didn't see it a whole lot, but you'd see kids with just like their head barely above the steering wheel. And I'd be like, that's not right. Like, what's that kid doing in a car? And then Coach Smith's kids got old enough where I'm like, oh, you can drive at 14. So it kind of made sense. So she's excited about that. Isaiah's 11, Briggs is 9, and then Bowen is he just turned 7. So they're spaced out pretty properly and evenly. We got a lot of birthdays in a row. We have one. Well, my wife's is March 30th, and we have April 15th, April 17th for my daughter Flynn. I'm April 17th too, so she was born on my birthday, which is a whole nother story. And then April 22nd. So I was scared to have kids, Mick. Like, I coached adults, like college basketball players. I was not good with kids. I'd run camp, but like having a kid was really scary. And Flynn was our first kid, and she was born on my birthday. And I felt like that was like God telling me, like, it's going to be okay. Like, this is a sign that it's going to be okay and you're going to be fine. And anybody that has had a kid fully understands when you have that child and you're holding that kid for the first time, it's like, man, like it's one of the best feelings in the world. And if you ever question anything that God has done, you'll never question anything again because of the love you have for God and the love you have for your child. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, it's a busy time having those ages. They're into everything. My daughter got moved up to varsity for volleyball, so my wife's been trying to travel around and see her. In the fall, I've been, trying to get to our boys stuff. And the other great part about Vermilion is just all the help that we have and the people and the support system we have in this city. It's no secret. Like my first year, I went through like a major medical deal. I fell off a ladder, broke 8 ribs, cracked my skull, broke my nose, and broke my wrist. I mean, there was a lot going on. And I'm not sure if we didn't live in Vermilion, I'm not sure we would have fully made it through that situation and me still being able to coach. So we have great people around us that help with all that stuff, and it's been a blessing.
What is it like? Uh, let's see, how do I ask this? Okay, so you're a father now, but you weren't a father when you started coaching. How is being a father and the experiences with being a father and knowing, getting that perspective, how has that helped you with your coaching?
Yeah, I think when I was really young, I just wanted to like coach the games because that I thought that's all that mattered was what people saw in the games and like let's just get to the games. Let's coach the games. AAU, you barely practice. You played a lot of games. I coach a lot of high level players, and it's like a stat. I was around this player that's going to Wisconsin, and this player ended up playing in the NBA. And it's the older you get and then you start having kids, it's more about the type of people you have in your program. And people always say you win with people. I always say you win with the right people. You have to have the right people in your program to fully do it. And as a father, it just makes you reevaluate things even more. And I think too, Mick, one of the underrated pieces about recruiting is families look at what type of father you are to your children. Every recruiting visit, we have every family in our program at my house with all of our players and our kids are running around. So I think it obviously works both ways. Like when you can be a tremendous father to your kids and try to raise them the right way, I can never be an extension of, or I can never be their parent when a recruit comes here and commits to the University of South Dakota, but I can be an extension of their parents. So if something does happen, I'm the one here that I can help that child or their child get through that. And that's what coaching is. But I think the older you get, whether you have kids or not, everything slows down. I think I'm a different coach from when I had that injury, Mick, and fell off the ladder that was close to the roof. I think you have a lot of time to think when you're sitting out for a month and you can't be there and coach. And I think I'm a lot more patient with kids. I always believe in second chances because I understand like at the end of the day, yeah, they're 18 to 22-year-olds, but we still have to mentor them and help them through tough times and teach them what's right and wrong too. You expect every kid to know, but every kid has a different background. And then I want my family to be around our players. I want to recruit good people. So my kids go to the games and then they're in the driveway picturing that they're Chase or Caleb Stewart or Matt Mooney or whoever. So it's really changed me. It's changed. Like I love going to practice. I love being around our guys, but I think you have to really recruit the right people. And it's not just about what happens in the game. If you recruit the right people and you love the process, the outcome will work itself out.
Weeds?
Yeah, that's good stuff. You mentioned your fall and obviously stressful on your family, stressful on your team. But coming back from that, being a different person, and now I'd like you to kind of talk about maybe Bowen and what he's gone through, and how stressful that is, on your family, and then you have to, turn that page and go to practice and what what a great thing about the University of South Dakota is, you, you know, again, that small town feel and all the coaches know what you're going through. But the little guy had a tough fall as well, right?
Yeah, there was a lot going on. Let me go back for a second, Tim. And just, when that happened to me personally, like I said, our community is tremendous and people were bringing over meals. And it was really hard on my wife because she's taking care of 4 children. And I mean, I got pneumonia. I can't move. Like I can't do anything myself. I mean, I can barely roll over with 8 broken ribs. And I never actually broke a bone in my body until that happened. And I mean, if you've broken a rib, you know how painful that is. And she's dealing with me with 8 broken ribs. And so she's like a nurse. And man, I look back on it and she was tremendous, but honestly, Tim, I just felt like I let our team down. And I mean, I grew up on a farm. I actually did roofing for a summer. I'm carrying 50-pound bags of shingles up, one on each side up a ladder the entire summer. And I would never expect it for that to happen to me ever, ever, ever. Like the amount of stuff I've done on a ladder or whatever, but it did. And I felt like I let our team down, and it'll never settle well with me that was our seniors' experience for their last year at the University of South Dakota. So that's a hard thing to take for me. Um, but like it made me a better coach because of it. And you always try to find positives. And um, we were going through, something with the player, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And then my dad's in the hospital trying to get, his heart straight. And then Bowen falls on the monkey bars at school. And, you know, you never know what to expect, but I'm in the office, and it's our day off, and I have like a list of things that I have to get done. It's like I have to do these things today. And my wife calls me, she's like, hey, Bowen fell off the monkey bars. He's going to the hospital. We'll be here at the emergency room. I'm like, okay. So, on the way out, I tell our staff, and kind of joking, but you never know if it's serious or not. Like, hey, they said to have 4 kids. It'd be a blast. Like, and then I get to the hospital and realize he doesn't have a pulse in his arm that he broke. And my wife's in the emergency room for the first time since my fall. So I'm there, and I don't remember being in the emergency room, highly medicated. And, you can kind of tell what's going on. They're like taking his pulse, they're trying to find it. They can't. Then they bring in the ultrasound machine, and they're like rolling up and down his arm, trying to find the pulse. I hear him outside already trying to say, hey, let's get the helicopter ready here just in case. And they come in, they're like, hey, we don't have a pulse. Well, that's scary because if he doesn't have a pulse and his arm's broken, what if he can't use his left arm the rest of his life and he's 6 years old? So that hit really hard. Uh, and my wife took the helicopter with him to Sioux Falls. I drove up a vehicle with our ops guy because I had to come back because we had three kids here that needed dad. And I mean, it's always like a blessing. You never know what you're walking into. I walk into the emergency room. They were great in Vermilion, phenomenal. They took care of them. I walk into Sioux Falls to Sanford, and the nurse is from Vermilion, the surgery nurse, Mackenzie Warner. I'm just like, okay, she's from Vermilion. I go to the room. They're getting him ready. The nurse is Becky Jensen's sister, who's our academic advisor. And I'm like, okay. And then, the surgeon comes in, and I got Doc Foley, our team doctor, kind of prepping me. This is the guy doing the surgery. And like Sanford is phenomenal. And I can say that with every ounce of I was there personally for 14 days, but it's become more like Mayo Clinic than anything. My wife had a heart surgery in Mayo Clinic. We talked about that. She had a heart issue in college. My dad's had a heart surgery in Mayo Clinic, and it's like top-notch service. And that's how we felt at Sanford. And we're so blessed to have Sanford in our community. It's absolutely crazy, from being in Vermilion in the emergency room to getting life flighted, all that stuff. Tremendous. So they go into the surgery, and they're like, there's three things that there's a less than 1% chance that we'll have to do in the surgery. But we might have to do them. Sign this form. And I'm like looking at the surgeon like, okay, treat him like he's your kid. Do whatever you need to do to save his arm. And sure as heck, they do all three things. All three things apply to this situation. And, about a week ago, we're sitting in the living room. I think it was on a weekend. And he just got feeling back in his hand. And like that was such a cool thing. And they couldn't cast it because it was so swollen and the break was so bad. But he got feeling back, and he's starting to be able to use these two fingers more. So they think it'll get back to normal, but what a scary deal. And then, a few days later, Josiah tears his ACL. So for that stretch, you're just getting beat down and beat down and beat down. But there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and there's always a reason for everything. And I don't know, every situation I've been in as a coach has made me stronger and a better person and a better father. So, yeah, that's been my last, I don't know, 5 weeks. But he is doing well. He's got to have a cast on for 8 weeks, which was supposed to be 6. He's getting feeling back. So there's a lot of positives, and he's got a great attitude. And the best part, he's 6. He probably won't remember it. And everyone said, you got a free helicopter ride? I'm like, I don't know if that thing was free, but I'm sure it was a cool helicopter ride.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm happy to hear that he's doing well and getting better. You mentioned your fall and that the stress. It's and you can even today you feel like you let your team down, and that's not the case at all, Coach. I know that I was around those guys, and they didn't feel like you let them down at all. But you know, coming back from that and being able to coach again when I mean, thinking about it, there were probably days where you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get back today. I don't know if I'm going to get back, this month or next year, whenever it is. But the first game was against South Dakota State, and what was that like walking out on the floor for that first game after all that, and still being obviously, you had your wrist, um, not in a cast, but in a splint and all this. And, you know, I was like, all right, I'm looking at you. I'm like, are you sure you shouldn't still be in the hospital?
I
What
know.
was it?
I probably pushed too hard, Tim, but if anybody knows me, that's who I am. Um, growing up on a farm, like you're supposed to be tough, like you're supposed to be indestructible. I got, three boys looking at me and you're supposed to bounce back. And man, I was in a lot of pain. I've never talked about this before, but I still had 8 broken ribs. I had that wrist that was throbbing. I mean, they were putting lidocaine patches on my back. And honestly, the worst part about the whole thing is I got pneumonia and I just couldn't breathe and I couldn't shake it. And it, I wanted to be back. I wanted to be back as soon as possible. My wife definitely wanted me out of the house. We always joke around during COVID. We like have a good synergy where I'm gone enough where, sometimes if you're just right there next to each other all the time, like you can just annoy each other like we're kids. And during COVID, she was like, "Don't you have somewhere you need to be? Don't you need to go recruiting somewhere? Like we need a couple days because we're around each other too often." But it's all fun. We're making fun of each other. But she really pushed me to come back. But should I have? Probably not at that point, but I did because I felt like I really needed to be around our team. But honestly, Tim, walking in there, it was really emotional because I saw so many people that supported us, that brought meals over, that were sending text messages, checking in on us. Like our administration was awesome handling that. I mean, nobody ever expects something like that to happen, and it did. And I couldn't ask for a better support system. So walking in there and seeing those people at the game, I'm like, I'm trying not to cry when I'm walking through there. It's like super emotional. And obviously we lost that game and wasn't fun, but it was like a good feeling for me to know that I'm back and maybe I'm not 100%, but I would hope that me at 70% is maybe better for our team than some people at 100% that don't know our team or know our program. So that was a tough situation. Honestly, Tim, it was really hard. And I know you have a strong faith, like trying to understand what God is doing in this situation and trying to get over that and figure out it's not about you, right? It's not about what you want. It's about God's path for you and what He has planned for you. And that was maybe the hardest part. And I wouldn't say that's like a testimony for me, Tim. Like I was raised very Christian, Lutheran, go to church every Sunday. There's not like one defining moment that I was born again or, all of a sudden believed in God again. But there's been really hard times in my life where you question some things. And that was a time where you're sitting at home, you can't move, you struggle to breathe, you're trying to blow into this thing to show the doctors you're strong enough to even get up and walk. And you're like, what is the purpose? My first year back at the University of South Dakota. Like that's what's going through your head. And I'm a big mental health guy. And like that was a lot of it, like mentally trying to get through that. Like, what is God's plan here? And how is He using this to make me a better coach and a better person? And like you look back on it now and you see it, like I am a better coach and I am a better person because of it. So really tough time for me, really tough time for my family. But we got through it. God always provides, and here we are, year 4.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you this. Even though I thought you looked like you should still be in the hospital, that night, I was I was so happy to see you back because I knew what it meant to the players to see you, and obviously you'd been at practice before that, but and it was emotional for me to watch you walk out to see those people in the stands, how excited they were to see you and see that you were okay. Because like I said, it was a bad deal, and nobody knew exactly when we were going to get to see you. So it's one of those things that I appreciate you. You were always open and honest with everybody about it, and see your strength physically. To be able to overcome those injuries in that short of time, but to see your want and your willingness to really come out when it would have been easy to say, you know what, I'm just going to sit this one out until I feel a little bit better at least. And you didn't. You came out when you thought your team needed it, and I really appreciate that about you. And I never had a chance to. We talk all the time, but we don't get too in depth on some of those things because a lot of it is day to day stuff type of thing.
Yeah.
But I
It,
really respected
it's
that.
emotional. I appreciate that, Tim. It's emotional. And, you're technically part of our staff. I really think you are. Like a lot of people, maybe you're not listed on the website, but I just think we had a really good staff that could handle that too. We had some experience that they could take over as the head coach. And we just had a really good support system. And, if I would have waited, Tim, until I felt better, that probably would have been like June or July. But sometimes, like, I don't know. It was great for me to come back to practice because it picked up my spirits mentally. Um, I needed the players probably more than they needed me at that point when all that stuff happened. And they don't truly realize the magnitude of that, but I did at that point. And like our staff was just tremendous through it all too. And like we have some and had some awesome people on staff that could handle that, but not a situation that you want to put anybody in, but we did and they handled it really, really well.
It's awesome. We appreciate you sharing that. Mick, got anything?
Well, I was just going to say that I remember when Eric told us about his first plane ride after the accident and how traumatic that was.
I don't even know where we were going, but I still wasn't healed up. And, I asked the Doc Foley, like, hey, if I fly on this trip, like, will I have some pain with, having pneumonia and kind of a collapsed lung or whatever it was? And he's like, you might have some pain. And trying to think where we were going. I don't
It,
remember, but it was like an hour and a half of excruciating pain on my left side where the broken ribs were. And I'm just holding my side. And it's one of those deals where every second is like in slow mo and you just can't get the trip done fast enough. I can't remember where we were flying to. Maybe it was even like Denver, like high altitude, but that was very painful. And it was like, okay, no, you know what? I think it was Omaha to St. Thomas. That's what I
yeah.
think it was because I
Yep.
saw you right after that. Yeah,
Yep.
that's what it was. And the worst part was I knew we had to get on another flight from Minneapolis to go to Oral Roberts. We played 3 games in 5 days. And that last one, I'm like, okay, if I just experience that, knowing we better win the St. Thomas game if I got to get on another flight. And we did. And then get our butts kicked by Oral Roberts, but we beat St. Thomas at St. Thomas. Like I think the only team in the league to do that year.
No, that was a fantastic game. That was great. I mean, the crowd was loaded up and no, that was a memorable game. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we've kept you a little longer than I told you we would, so we'll start wrapping this up. But anything, Coach, that you want to touch base on? I mean, you want to ask Mick about his jumper or anything, or
His jumper. Oh, his actual jumper. We're talking
yeah,
hoops here.
But you
Um,
conned me into that shooting contest against the guy who was really, really good.
yeah. So every day for shoot around, we either do one-on-one against two people I pick, or Mick was there one day and we did a shooting contest. Tell us the story, Mick. Do you remember it?
I remember it. I was really reluctant to do it, but then in hindsight, grateful. And I had not, I mean, I was a end of the bench high school player. I wasn't like a complete caveman on this thing, but it had been a while since I'd shot that 16 footer. And I could tell, I mean, after about 10 of them, that four hit the rim and none of them went in. But I kept looking at the guy who was set up as my opponent, and I'm sure he's a great guy, but he was not, there could not have been anybody within the Ramsey County boundaries that was a worse shooter than he was. And it still took me quite a while to 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 win that thing. But I love the fact that the team was pulling for me. Your team was pulling
Absolutely.
for me. Some of whom I'd gotten to know a little bit over the few years, and very supportive of me. And yeah, I would do it again. Unfortunately, I'm not going to probably get the opportunity this year. I will tell you that if anything like that does happen again, I'm going to get some shots in before it's time to go.
Did we win that game, Mick? Is
Yes.
that the game we won? Okay. So anytime you're around Vermilion, and you want to come to our pregame shoot around, you're coming because we're 1-0 when you've done a shooting contest.
All right. All
Maybe
right.
the South Dakota State game on the road or at home, that could be good too. But no, we won't talk about that. What I would say, Tim, like my message, you know what I'm about, like, the mental health side. And I've obviously gone through it personally, being out. We just talked about that. I've had family members. 988 is the suicide hotline. Losing one person's way too many. Check on people. I think that's really, really important. We have awesome resources here for our student athletes with Tanner. That's a huge reason why I came. When I was in the interview process, I just said, don't hire me unless you have somebody like that. Because we went through a couple things at Utah in the same year where a football player had passed away. The next year, another guy was shot, and it was a lot. And like our players were at this house party where somebody went to their car and got a gun and shot somebody, and they witnessed it. So I saw firsthand how somebody like Tanner helped them and helped us get through the season. And we're lucky we have tremendous resources with the University of South Dakota, and our president, President Gestring, is phenomenal with supporting that side. I think it's much needed. But I realize there's a lot of people out there that don't have that. So that's the number, 988. Or I always say too, like, you want to talk to somebody, you can always talk to me. Tim, you've been great with our student athletes with that as well. But just check in on somebody. I think that's so important in life. Nobody really knows what people go through on a daily basis. You just kind of see the surface, but you don't see everything below. And I just think, check in on your friends. I think that's really, really important. And just talk to people. Like that's the key. We're all here for each other. Like, you can be a South Dakota State fan or a South Dakota, it doesn't matter. We all live in the state of South Dakota. We got to look out for each other. And yeah, that's a huge message for me. It's just the mental health side, because I've seen it with um, student athletes within the Pac-12 when I was there. I've seen it in the Summit League. Like, it can happen to anybody, but we have to check in on each other. And I know too that men are a little bit more stubborn to talk about their feelings than women are. So that's probably my final message. But you can always talk to me if you want my number. Reach out to Tim and he'll get it to you. And if you ever need me, I'm here for you.
Awesome. All right, Mick, anything before we head out?
I just think this is great talking to Eric, and God bless him and the program. And it's just a really cool kind of for me anyway, just a feel good conversation about what you're doing down there. And it's just great that hearing about the community support that you've got over the years with the various crisis that you've had to deal with, kind of points toward this small town charm, and delivering on that. It's not just something that that you're trying to sell people. It's happened. You see it every day, and that's pretty cool.
The people make the difference. And I always say you win with the right people, and we have the right people here. And it's only a matter of time.
Awesome. Coach, as we close, I just want to say thank you to you for coming on and sharing an hour with us tonight. And obviously, I got to say thank you for allowing me access to your program, to your guys, allowing me to, show up when I can. And, you talked about you serving others, and I couldn't serve your team or your coaching staff unless you said, Tim, the door's open. And that means more to me than you will ever know, coach. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and what I'll say before we get off here is we appreciate you so much. And I know we just talked at practice about this, and I told our players how much we appreciate you. What you just went through to get to the football team in Indiana is absolutely crazy. You should be going to bed early tonight is what you should be doing. That should be uh, your present for that. But what I'll say is, listen, if you want to support our program, I know Tim posts like some QR codes to donate to Higher Power Sports. Please donate to him. Like, he does it all. We don't pay him anything. So any money that Tim can raise will go to help our student athletes and help get Tim around our student athletes, which helps us in a major way. So, Tim, if you want to post that afterwards or post that at the end of this, great. I'll retweet it, I'll repost it, whatever. But we couldn't appreciate you more, and we love having you around, and couldn't be more thankful for you.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that, Coach. We got to wrap up because I'm going to go to LOC for some supper and for the coyote report going on tonight. It's a holiday. Are they still got it going on tonight?
Oh
Mick,
yeah, yep.
again, Mick's a 9 to 5er, so he's the only one that understands the holiday.
Well, hey, I'm the only guy who's at work right now. I mean, let's.
All right. Thank you all. And next week, we will have Bill, Linda Roth, Logan Roth, my aunt, uncle, and Brent Roth, my cousins. Their daughter and sister. It was Andrea, who was killed by the distracted driver that I do my distracted driving talk on, and we're going to talk about the impact that she's having even 11 years after the accident. And so looking forward to that. So, all right, I got to go. See ya.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Go Yotes.